There's a lot of sample-based music out there. Part of the comforting thing about having a sample is when you sort of open the dark abyss that is like an empty door project. You know, you kind of lose your inspiration and creativity. You don't know where to start. Sometimes having a sample at the beginning can direct your flow. So building a sample pack is quite a unique thing. Having your own sounds, there's something quite satisfying about creating a track entirely out of things that you've made yourself, not relying on presets or anything else. I guess I never really sort of conceived exactly how big it would end up.
That was cool. I wish I recorded more of that.
Yeah, it was really cool. That would be like a bonus track or something.
Yeah.
That sounded sick.
Maybe a few gigabytes by the end of it, which is a bit ridiculous. Someone opens it, they're going to be like, what on earth is this? But then, as well, like an artist, you know, you can paint more shades if you have a bigger palette of different colours. It just grew sort of naturally along the way, like the more instruments and people with different musical backgrounds. Begging everyone I could with, you know, all their strange instruments. It's getting pretty huge now. It's a nice sort of little database of sounds that I can access at any moment. I didn't want to be too sort of standard with it. I mean, obviously there was like the percussion samples and you know, like a drum kit and stuff. So leading on from there, I didn't want to go too sort of generic. I didn't want to record individual notes of instruments and try and recreate like a guitar or a piano, because there's people who already do that way better out there. So for me, it was about finding kind of it was taking a different musical direction. More kind of oriental or ethnic sounding influences was a lot more interesting. The reason I included raw and mix is I wanted to capture the original sound of the instrument, like the flavour and the texture, and then the sort of mixed sounds part of the sample pack is a lot more experimental. I wanted to see what I could do to the sound. If I can transform one instrument into sounding like an entirely different one. It's kind of an experimental process. If you went in as a producer looking for natural sounds, you could pick them up, or if you went in looking for like some sort of dirty, like electronic horribleness, then yeah, there's plenty of that too. So I think I recorded a lot of the projects in university before actually cutting them up.
Yeah, I put lyrics as well. That's one thing. Like.
Yeah, because and then we can get one with you and the drums. And then
So starting to cut them up was when I really realised how long this was going to take. Sort of hitting things on a piano and guitar, which is kind of, you know, boring. Like I do a lot of that generally. But the more interesting things was sort of bringing in world instruments. So bringing in the halusi, the didgeridoo, like strange little sitars and violins. Sort of the interesting thing was having people who weren't experienced with the instruments playing them, you know, having some sort of musical ability but not actually knowing their way around the instrument. So you get all sorts of strange noises that you wouldn't usually expect from a professional player. You know, if you give a guitar to someone for the first time ever and they've never seen a guitar play, do you think they'll even hold it right? They might, like, you know, they might have it down here and learn it that way, and it might sound incredible, who knows? was very sort of, you know, inspirational. It definitely drove the creativity. Some people jam together and recording snippets of it and cutting it up. Getting different riffs and motifs from people jamming together as well, that you wouldn't usually expect. Like sometimes the hardest part was knowing I had to sample an instrument, but because the person has no basis of how they're going to play, they just, you know, they try and play like one note after another. Best sounds come from when someone is playing along to something. Bring people into the other side of the glass, I'd sit on this side, hit record, and just see what they do.
Alright. I'm just gonna record and see what happens.
I see what noises they make. Like sometimes the more interesting noises can come from what's happening in the room if someone accidentally knocks over a cymbal. Very like organic flow of people coming together and collaborating, helping other people out with their tracks while also stealing like audio snippets.
Feet slip into footsteps.
A lot of the natural sounds were mistakes, and they're the best ones. Some of the setups I went quite something traditional with, you know, just sort of a condenser microphone, whereas other ones I'd start on, say, like the electric piano in the room, I'd have 2 mics set up for that, I'd record that, and then when I moved on to the drum kit, I'd still have those 2 mics in the room picking up the kind of room frequencies as well as having directional mics. But it was, you know, I tested between things like using mics that wouldn't usually be used on something that's high frequency, like a theremin, and you know, just sort of experimenting with different placement and even putting mics facing the complete opposite way or dead against the wall. Sounds they pick up are a lot different to sort of the traditional like clean technique. I think the main sort of direction in the whole thing was to aim for weird. It was to aim for like experimental and sounds that are essentially wrong. Going on it, like we dropped a few marbles on a cymbal just to sort of get a different kind of effect from that. We'd like, you know, put the mic inside a grand piano, try to capture the bowed strings. Just putting someone in front of the mic and seeing what they sort of do. When left alone just with their own voice in a room with no sort of clear direction. A lot of the problems I had at first was getting levels right with the samples, you know, like different instruments recorded with mics in different positions, so you had like a lot more ambience in certain ones, and then there was the temptation, like, should I be EQing them or should I like reduce the noise and stuff. But then it turns out I actually, coming through mixing and stuff, I you know, some of those weaknesses in the recording were actually strengths. Noises people were accidentally making while they played an instrument, or noisy bracelets, or you know, kind of little increments that they make in the room that actually add to the sample's sort of ambience. I love the idea of heading down a new sort of artistic route with my own production, using these samples as a way of defining my own sonic signature. And it's definitely something I could see myself adding to throughout my entire career, you know, keeping a hard drive separate where I can plow more noises and things I come across throughout my work in the industry.
Something which you use, kind of a drum set.
Yeah, what does it? That's literally nothing.
There's potential to build a sample pack like forever, like, you know, it's something I'd like to share with people as well. Like that's like an interesting concept, seeing what someone else could do with the same sounds I had, like how their brain works compared to mine.